Sir, I hear that you admitted that FEMA knew or should have known that there were claims of underpayment and fraud as early as 2013.
That's correct, Congresswoman.
So here you are. You said that FEMA is not an enforcer and FEMA is not a regulator. But what do you do when you made a statement like this that you knew since 2013? So what do you do?
I think you do three things. You offer people a fair and reasonable settlement in litigation because they should have never had to sue you to get what they're entitled to. You open up the process and you offer people the opportunity, the 142,000 people who didn't sue us and sue their Write Your Own companies, you offer them the opportunity to have their claims reviewed because given what's come to light, they should have that opportunity if they choose to. And then finally, I think you set a course in motion to reform the program and to reform it permanently so that we don't continue to go through this cycle.
But what do you do with the Write Your Own participants?
How
do you hold them accountable? How do you send a strong message that we are not going to allow this type of behavior to ever happen again?
So I think there's a number of steps. The first was taking control of the litigation. Normally in the litigation process, the Write Your Owns make the decision, FEMA pays all the money. We've taken control of litigation and we're settling claims, and we're doing that in ways that probably the Write Your Owns would prefer we didn't, but we're doing it that way anyway. I would also say that the other thing we have to do with the Write Your Owns is try to make those who are willing be part of the solution, because we will never have the capacity as a federal government to deliver an insurance program to 5.3 million Americans. We're going to need the insurance industry to help us with that. So I think we have to set a standard. We have to set a culture of being survivor-centric, and I think we have to be careful not to alienate the very people who we need to deliver the program.
Well, but we need to send a strong message to those in the industry. So what type of stiffer penalties can we put in place to hold them accountable?
So, Congressman, I think that I think the first thing we have to recognize is that before we start penalizing anyone, there's court proceedings that are going on and investigations going on, and so I didn't wait for those. We didn't wait for those to conclude in order to try to compensate survivors through litigation and through claims. But I do think it's imperative to get to dispassionate facts about who did what and what really happened. And so for now, what I have done is, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, I have other questions. In March, FEMA announced that they will reopen all 144,000 Sandy-related flood insurance claims for review. And while this is good news, many homeowners at the time may not have taken advantage of other federal recovery programs like SBA disaster loans, with the reasonable assumption that their insurance will be honored. In light of the fraud allegations, should we reopen other forms of assistance for those that thought they were covered by insurance, were denied, and missed out on applying for a loan?
Congresswoman, I think that's a question for SBA and to the extent that it involves grants for HUD and its grantees. From my perspective, we believe there was a sufficient basis to provide people the opportunity to have their insurance claims reviewed, and that's what we're doing.
It is our understanding that FEMA and SBA have worked out a way to avoid the duplication of benefits. The only entity providing assistance after Sandy. Will FEMA expedite and lessen the burden resulting from overpayments to homeowners from the city?
The CD, we have worked with New York City, with New York State, and with New Jersey State, and we will continue to do so, but everyone should understand that a grantor like New York City and New York State and New Jersey stands in different shoes than a loan maker like SBA. Policyholders assign their rights to policy proceeds to SBA so that SBA has a secured interest. That is not the case for the grant makers. So I would say that if anybody took an SBA loan, we are working with SBA, and if SBA determines there's a duplication, then folks can use their insurance policy proceeds to pay down their loan. But if folks took a grant from one of the HUD CDBG grantees, then it's going to be imperative for them to decide whether they want to go through this process, because they very likely already received funds for the exact same purpose we would give them money, and they will have a debt when that is over.
Going back to the handful of engineering firms that seem to be at the root of the Sandy fraud cases, how does FEMA currently conduct oversight over third-party contractors And how, again, are these firms held accountable?
Just with recognizing the time, the oversight is conducted through what are called operational reviews that are conducted for a week every 3 years. They're wholly inadequate in my view. There are other existing forms like monitoring for improper payments, but again, I think we have lost sight of the network, and these are not adequate mechanisms, but those are the ones that are in place.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentlelady. Time's expired. With that, to go to the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Posey, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.